I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Hold on. Hold on. Do 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 do. I've been waiting. You know what's a good song? You know.
Hi everyone, welcome to Broken Spoken. This is Alexander.
What's up?
My name is Meriel. What's a good song I know?
What's a good song? Like,
There's a lot.
You don't have like one song you always go to?
Oh yeah, my go-to karaoke song is Am I more than you bargained for yet? I've been dying to tell you anything you want to hear, cause that's just who I am this week. Do you know what song that is?
No, but that's amazing. You got to do that in your Valley Girl character.
It's Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy.
Oh, okay. Oh, that was Fall Out Boy.
Sugar We're Going Down swinging.
Oh, yeah, I know that
number one with the bullet.
Yeah. I haven't heard that in a while.
That's my go-to karaoke.
It's like the song of a generation.
Yeah, it's so good. And what's another good go-to song for karaoke? That one's a classic.
It's classic.
One.
Yeah.
Bon Jovi's always fun to do for karaoke.
Ooh, yeah, of course. Because you don't really need to hit the notes. You just need to look like.
Unless you do like, Bed of Roses, in which case.
Which is that?
From Bon
Is that a
Jovi.
ballad?
Kind of, yeah.
So it's important to hit the notes.
Yeah. Or like Always by Bon Jovi.
How does that go?
I can't even sing it. It's so hard.
Yeah, I know.
Like, how does it go?
I know you can't sing.
I know. I really can't.
That's not what I meant, but that's kind of how that came across.
I will love you, baby, always, and I'll be there forever and a day. You know that song?
No.
Always, I'll be there till the stars don't shine, till the heavens burst. And I should learn the words.
Nice.
That's how he sings it too. I love Bon Jovi.
He's a good singer. He's a good singer. I've never seen him live.
Oh, me neither.
Have you seen who's like one artist you've seen that just blew your mind live?
There's several. I saw Kendrick Lamar and he was incredible.
Did he do Humble?
This was pre-Humble.
Pre-Humble. Wow.
Pre-Humble.
Okay.
And then Mos Def and Nas came out. So it was a really cool show. And then I also saw Florence the Machine live. She was incredible.
Wow, yeah.
Do you know who was really good live?
Who's that?
Hold on, I have to burp. I just had a lot of coffee.
Do it!
So I saw the Everett Brothers. Have you heard of them?
No.
So I never heard of their music, and I saw them live, and they were really good live. Really, really good. And then I went home, and I was like, oh, I want to look these guys up. And I looked them up, and they were okay. Like, I like their music a lot, but I think they were better live.
Yeah. I've been on this like bluegrass kick.
What's like a bluegrass artist I may know?
I hope I'm not going to butcher this, but The Green Sky Bluegrass, they do this cover of Pink Floyd Time. Oh cool. My God. I mean, sometimes you hear music that's just so perfectly produced, you know when they're on stage live that it's just a torrent of talent.
Yeah.
Some people, they don't translate that way. Right? Some artists, you see them live and it's like, eh.
Yeah. Well, I think the Everett Brothers were better live.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. They were really good musicians. Really good musicians. Who else did I see live that was really good? I saw Marina and the Diamonds.
I don't know who that is.
I'm a big fan of hers. She was great.
Marvin, you heard of them? Marina and the Diamonds?
Really good.
Is it pop?
Poppy, kind of, yeah. Kind of poppy. Poppy. Pop-esque.
Everything you say is cooler.
Pop-esque. It is?
Yeah.
People tell me that. I just don't think it's true, though.
It's definitely
because people always say, like, oh, a British accent has authority. But when I used to work doing sales, I was shit at it. No one bought anything from me.
I don't think British has authority.
I
think you would say authority would be the word?
People,
I feel like it's
people always
class.
like, oh, like, you sound like you know what you're talking about. But when I used to work as a makeup artist, and I would also have to sell makeup as part of that.
Yeah.
And I was terrible at the selling part. Partly because people would come in and ask for products, and I'd be like, yeah, but actually, if you go down the street to Sephora, you'll get a better one. Like, I was too honest.
That's why you're bad.
My manager would be like, you shouldn't be telling them that. I'm like, but there's a better brand down the street. I'm not going to lie to someone.
But I'm a good person.
I'm really bad at sales. I really don't.
Unfortunately, I'm not bad at sales.
Yeah, it takes a certain skill. I'm really bad at sales. Just,
it's an important skill, but also, is it an important skill?
I think for some people, yeah, if that's your job. Some people really thrive on selling things. I do not.
What would you take? Salesmanship or honesty as a skill?
Well, honesty isn't a skill.
You don't think so? I think it's a skill.
I don't think it's a skill. I think it's just something you have to do.
I don't think honesty comes naturally. I
disagree.
I think as a kid, you learn the meaning of doing something bad, right? If you're being dishonest, you're taught that's not right. But in my belief, we come out of the womb as basically these like barbarians with no ethics.
I completely disagree.
Really?
Because I think babies, like young babies, are honest to a fault. When they're hungry, they cry. When they're tired, they cry. When they're annoyed, they'll let you know. Like, that's just pure honesty.
I feel like it's the opposite with babies. I mean, you would know better than I.
You haven't hung around many babies.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think babies are like super honest. I mean, even kids up to 3 are like, will say stuff to you that you're like, a well-conditioned adult wouldn't say that, but go off, you know? Like just things like, like one of the kids I teach, she's 5. And last week she goes, Miss Meriel, you forgot to put your makeup on today. And I was like, you're right. I didn't put any on today. And the next week she goes, oh, Miss Meriel, you remembered your makeup today. Like, you know, I had another kid that used to look me in the face like every week very carefully. She was 4 and she would go, you look like you're getting older. Like every week without fail, just straight in my eyes. And I was like, yeah.
What age do they start like tricking you and pretending to cry? And
around like 1.5, 2, I would say they start to learn manipulation. And it's a very, it's actually a very good thing. It's a good milestone of development and growth when they start learning they can manipulate.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that a good milestone?
Because they're learning that their emotions and they're learning that they can influence other people.
Okay.
And that's a really important developmental milestone as a human growing, that you learn that you can have a sway over other people's feelings and emotions and that you can affect someone else.
Whoa.
So lots of parents freak out when their kids are 2 and they start, fake crying or start manipulating. But actually, obviously you have to, control it in a sense and be aware of it. But it's actually a very important developmental milestone for kids.
Did you know that, Marvin? That makes sense.
Right?
I guess knowing how to influence people is important.
Not even influence. Like babies will, they'll do things like they'll cry to get your attention even though they're not really upset. And that's,
right.
Because when they're little, they'll cry because they just want to be held. When they get to about 2, they'll cry, or they'll say things like, often babies will say to their parents, like, I don't love you. Because they know their parents will be like, oh my goodness, no. When what we really should do is be like, that's okay. I still always love you. They're just saying that to get a rise out of you. You're like, go, sit at the table and eat your food. And they go, I don't love you. Because they're hoping you'll be then say like, oh, it's okay. I have candy, And kids will do that. And it's not.
That doesn't sound honest to me.
It's not out of being malicious, but that's a learned skill. That's what I'm saying. They don't do that when they're born. They do that around 2.
So you're saying it's the other way around,
yes.
where you learn to be dishonest.
Yes. And it's actually a very important thing to learn.
Dishonesty?
Manipulation.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And you should hope, obviously you hope as they get older, they realize that that's not the way to function in society.
Right.
We shouldn't praise them for manipulating, but it is an important social skill and a stage of development for them to learn it means they're consciously aware of that they can get a rise out of people.
So you've worked with kids, what, 8 years, 10 years?
Let me think, how old am I now?
Right.
Probably, about 8 years now, yeah.
Okay, so in all your time...
Actually, even younger, but I wouldn't count that I was working with kids when I was younger because I was just babysitting. That wasn't...
Yeah, it's not the same. Not compared to what you do now.
Yeah.
Okay, so in all of all your years working with kids,
yeah,
what is the most surprising thing that you've learned from working with children? Is there one thing that just profoundly altered your view of the world in any way?
I think they are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, and they remember more than we think they remember.
Yeah.
One of the kids I look after at the moment, he's 3, and he kept saying anytime we were in the park and the wind would blow, he'd go, things are going to blow away. He was really scared of things blowing away.
Huh.
Like his sister blowing away, his stroller blowing away, me blowing away.
Whoa.
I would always be like, child, things aren't going to blow away. Like we're fine. Nothing's going to blow away. And then one day I was talking to his mom and I was like, why does he always freak out that we're going to blow away in the wind?
Right.
And she goes, oh, on his 3rd birthday, they got him one of those big Mylar balloons. Yeah. And they were taking a picture with it and they let go and it blew off. And there was a picture of him going,
no
as the balloon flies away. And it's traumatized this kid.
Hell
and now
yeah,
he's
it traumatizes.
convinced things are going to blow away.
Wow.
I once, by mistake, broke his toy airplane. We were in the park and we were throwing the toy airplane around.
Yeah.
And it fell out the stroller and it got broken. And that was a big deal for him. And then now, anytime we go to the park, I go, where do you want to go? He goes, not the field with the rock, because that's where the airplane broke.
Whoa.
He remembers that space and he doesn't want to go there. So I've permanently damaged
Oh
his
my
driving.
gosh, this is kind of making me sad because it's like,
he's got a really good memory. He remembers this stuff.
this is the thing I think would be a difficult new thing to deal with. I'm not a father yet. Definitely want to be one.
Oh, surprise! No, I'm kidding.
This is why we're here, Alexander, actually, to sit you down and
Here are
reveal.
all your past ladies, and they are pregnant.
Yeah, it's just this jacked, angry baby in a beanie. Just this is yours. But, as a parent, how do you deal with you causing trauma, right? Because no matter what you do, even if it's really small in the adult world, it's still a sliding scale for a child, right?
So this is another thing with parenting too, is you have to just accept that there is no such thing as the perfect parent. And in fact, the whole idea of perfect parenting can, in fact, itself be detrimental to kids.
Wow.
Is it when parents are too perfect, is that really good for the development of a child?
There
isn't such thing as a perfect parent.
Yeah, but what is...
All of us
I've met some pretty amazing parents.
We can have amazing parents, no doubt, but all of us will have some form of trauma, some form of discomfort in our life. And part of growing up is just learning how to deal with that. And I think no matter what you do as a parent, there is going to be some things you do wrong. And that's okay, because there isn't a perfect human. So there's no need for there to be a perfect parent. In fact, you can even argue the perfect parenting is almost detrimental to a kid because you're not giving them a chance to overcome any kind of adversity.
Right. And they're not interesting, the kids.
Yeah.
They just become kind of normalized, which I guess we need more of that.
We just need to, I think as a parent, teaching kids how to be aware of their trauma and work with it is key.
I feel like this is an interesting comparison to the state of the world in a way, right? Because the way you're describing it is it's actually not just a path to the development of another soul and human being in front of you, but it's also a pathway to self-acceptance.
Right.
Right? And accepting your own flaws and your ability to be an imperfect person and how that can have tremendous effect on another human being's developmental cycle. Coping with that is a pretty profound philosophical learning curve.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be?
Well, I think also, do you remember the point in your life when you realized your parents weren't perfect?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's a big learning point, I think, for kids as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're told.
Later or earlier, you think?
I think earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think I was ever under any delusions. I have very good parents, but I wasn't under any delusions that they were perfect.
I was under delusions.
Really? Yeah.
Sure.
That's very common though, because we're told as kids, there are a lot of things that my parents did that I will never do if I ever have kids.
Yeah. I feel like everyone has those stories, and it wouldn't be fair to point to those and say, well, at least in my life, I can't speak for other people, but in my life, the mistakes are all beautiful mistakes, because at the same time, if I didn't learn what darkness means in a human being, I wouldn't know how to deal with it, right? And I guess this goes back to your perfect parenting thing, where if you're dealing with a perfect parent, how do you cope with darkness?
How do you make a mistake if your parents are perfect?
Right. And how do you feel about that?
Right.
And more importantly, how do you deal with your relationships when the other person is in a dark moment?
Or isn't perfect.
Yeah. And then you have this weird expectation. Darkness is such an important part of any human being. And I feel that the ignoring that's going on right now with a little bit of everything, this is kind of like a nebulous philosophical comment, but I feel like people are ignoring the fact that darkness has to be in the room in order for there to be light. People focus on the light too much and have this paragon of virtue-esque, expectation of things, but because we don't accept the darkness in every single situation, we're unable to find common ground.
Yeah. Well, I think part of being an adult or just part of growing is unpacking things. Unpacking things you've learned and rethinking things. So you kind of need a little bit of grit in your life. I feel like I've been I think I really started unpacking things when I was 27.
What happened?
Well, isn't that when your planets come back into alignment?
Is that true?
That's what they say at
27. On the 27th year?
Yeah, that's why so many people die at 27.
Whoa.
There's a 27 club. So many artists die at 27.
Like Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin,
Amy Winehouse.
Yeah. Who else?
Tons. I'm trying to think.
God, so many more, right?
So many singers, performers.
Well, actors too.
Oh,
Kurt Cobain,
Sam Cooke,
James Dean.
Did he? No, I think he was even younger.
Was he?
Yeah.
Can we look that up?
I think James Dean was real young when he died.
Yeah, the 27 Club is a scary thing.
The 27 Club.
Wait, the rapper. Oh my God, Tupac, right? 27.
Was he 27?
27 Club, I thought. Him and Biggie were 27 Club. No.
A lot of artists died at 27 because I don't know about you. For me, 27 was a really hard year.
Yeah.
It just like there was a lot of shifting, a lot of stuff happening.
There was a lot of shifting.
Yeah.
27 is the first time I felt old.
Really?
You know, like obviously I'm not old, right?
Right.
But it's the first time you
Can you imagine if I was like, maybe.
You have a photo you want to compare it to? No, it's the first time I felt like I've departed from being connected to youth in a way.
I showed my ID at a place last night, actually. They were like, can I see your ID? And I pulled it out and the guy goes, oh. And I was like,
what does that mean?
Like I was older than he thought.
What the
he goes, oh. And my friend with me goes, that was rude. And I was like, yeah.
What?
He was like shocked at my age. I couldn't believe it.
What a dick.
And I was like, hi.
You don't look old at all. That's whatever. He's just being an ass.
Well, I think that was the point. He looked at my ID and I was older than he thought. He was like, aha, I can't believe I ID'd you. And I was like, I'm not that old.
27, I felt to me, I think maybe I had my quarter life crisis. You know how they call it that?
Yeah.
I think that was at 28 when I took that motorcycle trip, right? And that was when I really started wrestling with mortality.
All I remember from you with that motorcycle trip is you sent me a video of you in your front drive, like revving the bike. And I was like, that's so cool. Can you ride it? And you went, nope. and I was like,
yep.
Aren't you setting out in like 2 days? And you're like, yep. And I was like, all right, good luck.
Yeah, I had a quarter life crisis. You know, I was going through some stuff.
You took a bike and just set off.
In about a week and a half, I went from not
thing.
knowing how to ride a motorcycle to taking a 30-day cross-country motorcycle trip.
Yeah.
Which was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I highly recommend people do it. It's not as scary as people think. It really isn't. You just have to have awareness.
Well, that's because you're a white male who's about 6 foot something. If I set off...
No, I'm talking about driving a motorcycle. You're in a helmet the whole time.
No, I'm talking about if I went off by myself to the middle of nowhere on a motorcycle, like I'd be dead in 24 hours.
No, you wouldn't. 48. Give yourself some credit. You can last 24. No, you wouldn't. You'd be fine. People do it all the time.
I don't know.
People do it all the time.
I think about this all the time because I sometimes get this urge to go jogging at like 2 a.m, and I wish I could, but it's just not safe.
2 a.m. is a little different.
You know, I wish I could just go and run at 2 a.m. because I get like a burst of energy often, and all I want to do is go for a jog, and I can't do it.
So just bring nunchucks. Problem solved.
Just as I'm running.
Yeah, you get an even better arm workout.
It doesn't work that way. I wish I could. Anyway.
So what's like do you have a time like as a woman when you're like we're saying, okay, this is getting dangerous?
Yeah, like dangerous? When it's dark out.
What? That's like half the day.
Yeah. Welcome to being a woman, Alexander.
I don't know.
When it's dark out, when the streets are empty. I don't go in Central Park when it's past dark. I won't walk through the park when it's dark.
That makes sense though, because literally no one's around. It's like the only place in New York.
Even if it's 5 p.m. and it's dark, I won't go through the park.
What?
Unless I'm with people.
What?
Yeah.
Yo, I'd love for a bum to jump me at broad daylight in Central Park. It'd be a fucking
I'm talking about when it's dark. I won't go through the park when it's dark.
Oh, 5 a.m.
Or 5 p.m. Sometimes it's dark by 5 p.m. now.
Yeah, okay. Well, in winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I won't, I mean, like sometimes I'll come in from work late and then I'll walk up main streets because they're busier. So then I feel fine. If I know I'm taking a subway line that doesn't have a lot of people on it, I won't do it. I'll take the main lines, but I won't take any of the little side lines. Yeah. I'll put my headphones in, but I won't play music so I can hear what's going on around me.
That's a key factor.
Yeah.
I literally never do that. Yo, this is a crazy story. Okay. I'm on the subway, right? I'm listening to my music. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in some subways, for those that aren't actually from New York City, different lines, subway lines have different designs.
Yeah.
Right? The L is just straight across, but the BDFM kind of has an L shape so that you have basically little curves in the seating so that you can be facing in the direction of the train or facing towards the opposite side of the train.
Like this and this.
Yeah, exactly. Like an L. So I'm sitting at one of the cross points there at the L, right? The subway window is right behind me. To my front left is one chair where one person sits down. So that person sits down. I'm just chilling like this, right? Hanging out, just listening to my music. A good song comes on, it's a very New York thing. We're just kind of feeling it. And then I hear this goo. And I look to the left of me. And this motherfucker is stabbing the window right by my face.
Like with a knife?
With a knife.
Yeah.
Just like, And I'm like, holy shit. That could have been it.
Yeah.
That could have been it.
Yeah.
Just one crazy dude in a knife. And it kind of reminds you, it's like, oh yeah, I'm in New York City.
It's a city. It's a very safe city, but it's still a city.
It is pretty damn safe, all things considered.
It is a very
like, you
safe
ever wonder about that, seeing like NCIS and stuff where they have all these like gang shootings and explosions? And you're like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. Or like
where is the crime?
Law and Order SVU.
Yeah.
It's it always starts with them jogging in Central Park and they find a body. Maybe that's why I don't go to Central Park when it's dark, because I've watched so much SVU. They're always finding bodies in the bushes, in the rambles. Always finding bodies in the rambles.
Bodies in the rambles.
Bodies in the rambles constantly. Like Ice-T is always like, there's another body in the ramble. Like that's always happening.
I've never seen a robbery. I've only seen bar fights. I've only seen crazy bums. I've never seen a stabbing. I've never seen a shooting. I've never seen a car rob. I've never seen Grand Theft Auto, right? All the things that you think happen in New York, I feel like just doesn't happen.
Every time I've been to the ER in New York, the person in the room next to me is there because of being hit by a car. Happens.
I've never seen that either.
Constantly.
How have we not seen that before?
Maybe,
right?
Maybe you're just not looking. Yeah, you're lucky. Yeah.
You've never been mugged?
No. Have you?
Yeah. You've been mugged?
Yeah.
Well, I thought every New Yorker gets mugged.
I haven't been mugged, but I had several friends that have. My brother was mugged in London.
Wow.
But they were kind of chill about it in London. That sounds really bad. He was walking our dog. He's tall. My brother's 6'3", so it's not like he's small.
He's not a very muggable person.
Yeah, and they kind of swarmed him and were like, "Give us your wallet," and he's like, "I don't have a wallet," and they kind of patted him down and were like, "Oh, okay," and then they just left. But
they're like, he's poorer
like,
than us.
Yeah,
You need money?
yeah. He was just walking the dog. It was like my dog's nighttime walk.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't been mugged. I've had like people be inappropriate with me on the streets of New York. What just happened? Your cushion's about to fall out the back.
Whatever, it's fine.
Okay. I had a guy on the subway. I was sitting on those the seats that were like the L shape, and I was near the window, and this guy sat next to me, and I didn't think of anything about it. And then he moves closer, and he moves closer, and he kept moving closer till finally I was up against the window, and he was like squishing me on purpose. And I got up and I moved, but he was like on purpose trying to make me uncomfortable, by like pushing me into the window.
Wow.
And some guy was like, "Yeah, I saw that. That was so weird." And I was like, "Yeah, it was really weird. It was very uncomfortable." Like just purposely, basically tried to sit on me and like corner me in the window.
You know what's weird is
I've had cab drivers. I had a cab driver while I was in the cab ask if we could be fuck buddies, and I was like, "Pull over, I'm getting out now."
whoa,
pulled over.
That's so gross.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just weird shit.
Yeah, that hasn't
It
happened
was a yellow taxi driver.
to me.
Yeah, yeah. And he was like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "Do you want a boyfriend?" I was like, "No." And he goes, "What about us?" And I was like, I didn't say anything. He goes, "You know, you and I, we could be fuck buddies." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna get out here." And he goes, "We could be fuck buddies." I was like, "All right, pull over. I'm getting out."
Did you pay?
No, I
Good.
got out. I left.
Nice.
I was like, no, I mean, I was 20 at the time. I just moved here. And,
Oh, yeah.
I was 20 and I didn't get his number. I just was like, I want to get out this cab. I don't feel safe.
Yeah, that's the kind of darkness that sometimes I struggle with thinking about. You know, it's like humanity. You know, I've tried to lately think about how I view the world. I've been kind of taking a glance at how certain things on the internet affect me, how certain thought patterns affect me. Mm-hmm. You know, how tuned in am I into the news, and how does that make me feel? Does that carry over into how I project myself in relationships?
Interesting.
Right? Is there a way that I can cultivate healthier mental soil, so to speak?
Soil.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, laugh, whatever, you know. But
Yeah, just laugh at me. You sound like Christopher Walken just then.
I got two feelings. Number one, two mice fall into a bucket of cream. The first mouse drowns. The second mouse works so hard, it churns the cream. It's not bad.
Yeah, that was a
I'll
really
work
good
on
impression.
it. I'll work on it.
I was talking to my friend last night
Yeah.
about my friend who had a wild night. We went out last night and it got a little hectic.
Nice.
But we did talk about the scariest childhood commercials from when we were kids. And she was telling me, she's from Montana, and she was telling me they used to have this thing called METH MONTANA.
METH MONTANA? what is that?
And there were these commercials to warn against using meth.
Okay.
And they were really scary. And she showed me one. She put one up on YouTube and they're terrifying. And it's this girl, she's in a bathtub and she's like, she's like showering or something. She looks down and then she sees herself in the bathtub, like crying and like bleeding. And it's all about how meth was such a problem. And so they're trying to, show these to these kids. But she said these videos used to traumatize her as a child because they would play them in school, these METH MONTANA commercials about warning against meth. And I was saying that there was two commercials that really stood out to me as a child that I think we're talking about, like, things that influence you as a child.
Yeah.
These full on had an effect on my psyche.
Really?
There's two of them. The first one is there was this PSA they used to show on the TV, and I've tried to find it online and I cannot find it. And I want to find it just for my own mental health. But it was about locking your windows. And the PSA shows a guy going into he climbs in through a second floor window. So obviously he's climbed up someone's front of the house. And he goes into a second floor window and he takes a baby out of a bassinet. And he's wearing all black and a hoodie.
Yeah.
And he crawls back through the window with the baby. And it was about, lock your windows or like put window guards on. And that traumatized me as a child. Because I went through a phase where I was terrified of being kidnapped.
Yeah.
I was convinced I was going to get kidnapped. And my dad would always say two things. First of all, if they kidnapped you, they give you back. Ha ha ha. Because I was annoying. And then
he's like, they give you back, Meriel.
Yeah,
they just borrow you for a little bit.
They give you back. And then two, he go, we're not rich enough to have a ransom, so they're not going to kidnap you. Like that was the way of calming me down. Was like, we don't have a ransom, so they're not going to bother. And two, you're annoying, so they give you back.
Wow.
Right?
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dad. So I had this whole thing about being scared of kidnapped, and it was probably because of that commercial.
Wow.
I used to have dreams about being kidnapped.
Wow.
And then the second thing, and I remember this from high school, we were shown a video in health class, and it was a cartoon, and it was this boy, teenage boy, and he got given a pet dog for Christmas.
Yeah.
And he also started smoking. Right, he learned like what a cigarette was, and so every day he would take his dog to the park, and he would hide in the bushes, and he would have a cigarette. And his parents were like, "Oh, he's so good. He walks his dog every day. What a nice boy." And then his dog got cancer from secondhand smoke and died. And the
what?
PSA was to warn you about the dangers of secondhand smoking because it doesn't just affect you; it affects everyone around you. So the whole cartoon was this boy with his dog, and he killed his dog by always smoking with his dog. And that was the video they showed us in school to warn us about cigarettes.
Wow. That's dark.
And I still remember him like crouching in the bushes, the cartoon of him crouching in the bushes, smoking a cigarette. And then it cut to, a grave site and an RIP. And he was like sobbing at the grave.
Oh my God.
Sorry. This was when I was maybe 13 or 14. They showed this in school.
I'll tell you my darkest fear as a kid.
Oh.
I had one very, very specific
I had
fear.
some weird ones, so this will be good.
There was this movie, all right, this animated movie.
What's his name?
Called Nemo and the Flying Squirrel. I don't know if you've ever seen this. Yeah, no one ever has seen this apparently, except me. So Nemo and the Flying Squirrel was this, it was kind of like the toaster adventures kind of thing. Do you remember these movies? And Ansel the Mouse Adventure, that like Spielberg movie.
I don't think.
It was a Spielberg movie, right? It was the mouse that like goes to New York City.
No.
The animated is kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Never heard of
it's
it.
kind of like Anastasia era. Yeah. So there was this, I think it may have been a competitor to Disney, but it was this animated movie called Nemo and the Flying Squirrel, right? And it had this like Neptune-esque kingly father figure, almost like the Western classic version of seeing God, right? Like white beard, Zeus-like,
Right.
but, you know, had like a Neptune crown, was kind of this like sea person with a trident.
Ooh.
And the thing that scared me the most was so unusual, Meriel. It was like they released this darkness, this blackness, this like muck. It was almost like Fern Gully muck, right?
Yeah.
Where the smoke and the darkness had like a...
Yes, by it was Tim Curry.
It was Tim Curry, yeah.
So good.
So this muck stuff, it was kind of like tar, and it would capture him, and it would crawl up his body, right? And in this movie, he's like crying, you know, he's like sacrificed. This whole family is like trying to reach out to save their father figure. And this thing just crawls up and completely encapsulates it.
Oh, that's
and just
horrid.
shuts him closed and kills him, murders him.
Oh my gosh.
And so as a kid, I was so terrified of this scene in a movie. Like,
I don't blame you.
it was completely irrational.
It sounds like in the
how I
Never-Ending
acted.
Story when the horse gets stuck in the quicksand and sinks.
Wait, what happened there?
You've never seen the Never-Ending Story?
Yeah, I have.
The horse, Ajax.
Atreyu?
Oh,
No, Atreyu's the main character.
Ajax, I think it is, right? Yeah, Ajax. I think-
Ajax? Okay.
or like A something, and he's like, please move, and he's sinking in the quicksand, and this boy's crying, and he's like, get out, and the horse just goes, and I would cry,
Wow.
and cry in that scene. Yeah, that's scary. I don't blame you for being afraid of that. That's
Yeah,
terrifying.
it was like a weird thing. You know, it was just a special reaction that I had to this one particular movie.
I had weird fears. Like I was convinced that witches lived in my closet, in my bedroom.
Like good
closet.
witches or bad
Like
witches?
bad witches.
So like hocus pocus witches.
Like scary witches, like child eating witches.
Ooh, yeah.
Probably because I watched The Witches, the Royal Dahl movie, which was terrifying, by the way.
Right.
Have you ever seen it?
A long time ago.
Angelica Houston?
Yeah.
Terrifying. So my parents told me that if I clapped, like that would get rid of the witches.
Really?
And they also had a broom that they would like sweep around my closet. I was a very anxious child. My mental health problems started very early. I just didn't realize it. So they would sweep my closet with this broom.
Do you believe in mythical creatures? Like, do you believe in Loch Ness Monster, maybe?
Not mythical creatures, but there are a couple of them I believe in.
Like what?
Bigfoot.
You believe in Bigfoot?
I wouldn't be surprised if Bigfoot's real.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. If
I wouldn't
it
stake
exists.
my life in it right now, but I have my suspicions.
What about unicorns?
No, I don't believe in that.
Loch Ness Monster?
Loch Ness Monster.
I've been to Loch Ness.
I feel like
I
we
didn't
would
see
know by
shit,
now.
so-
I feel like we would know by
you
now.
think?
Yeah, because Loch Ness isn't that big, right?
It really isn't that big.
It's not
but
like
it's
you-
also, isn't it quite deep? Yeah.
It's quite deep and it's quite murky, but you know, I don't think it exists.
You don't think it exists? I'm
I don't.
surprised because you believe in this stuff quite often.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in what makes sense.
Well, I remember this, and I'll never forget this. I was coming to visit you once when you were in Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on the train, and there was a furry on the train. Like, there was someone dressed up in ears and a tail. You know, there's people. You know what a furry is, right? So it's people that dress up as animals
To get fucked.
to get fucked. Well, not always. Sometimes they just enjoy it, but most of the time it's sexual.
To get fucked.
And they dress up as animals, and it's a whole thing. So there was one of those on the train. So I got off the train, like Matt Alexander. I was like, oh my goodness, there was a furry on the train. And you were like, what? And I was like, yeah, there was a furry on the train. You're like, really? And I was like, yeah. You're like, that's wild. Did you just see it? What do you mean? And I was like, they were just sitting there. And then we kept talking, and then finally you're like, oh, furry. I thought you said fairy. And you were so ready to believe me that I'd seen a fairy that I was so touched that like he didn't question me. He wasn't like, all right, you psycho. He was just like, wow, she thinks she's seen a fairy.
Yeah.
I'll take her for a word. And I remember thinking like, if I ever have an experience where I think I'm being haunted or something out of this world happens, like you're the first person I would call because I have no doubt you would believe me.
Well, I've seen ghosts.
Right. And just the way you were
seen them.
so ready
Yeah.
to believe me as a fairy, that I saw a fairy on the train, no question, no doubt, I thought it was incredible.
Did I ever tell you the story? How I saw the ghost?
Please tell it.
Yeah, I want to hear it. I love ghost stories.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. So I'm in this really old house, right, in New Jersey.
Wait, you did tell me the story. Carry on going.
Did we say it on the pod?
You did, but we didn't publish it, so just go for it.
The one at the okay, I'll just tell this
Yeah,
one.
it's a good one.
All right, so I'm in this really old house in New Jersey, right? I'm in this like filthy rich town with the shittiest house. Like we have like a water pump out front, like Helen Keller style water pump.
Helen Keller?
Yeah, you know that's how she found water. Wow. Why don't you read?
What?
Read. Yeah, Helen Keller.
What did you just do?
Wow. That's what she says. That's the first word she learned how to say.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Carry on.
Okay. Wow. So anyway, we're in this really old home, right? And the way our house is set is we have a row of back windows that face our backyard. And in the backyard, I have this trampoline. Now, this is why this is important. My porch to leave the house to get to the trampoline is on the side of the house, right? So you see the screen door swing open so that it's nearly flush with the row of windows. So you can't mistake it. It's a white screen door. It's only when it's closed are you not able to see it. So to get out, you open the screen door, you walk down the porch, and you make it to the trampoline, where if you're in the house, you can clearly see the trampoline through the windows, the row windows. All right, so I don't know, maybe like 9, right? 9, 10-ish, maybe a little older. And we're hanging out on the trampoline, jumping around, me and the brothers. And my mom walks out and starts heading down to the trampoline. And as she's walking down, this blonde-haired guy with a green sweater and this sinister-looking smile, you know, like he knows he's getting away with something.
Scary smiles are the worst kind of smiles.
But enjoying it, you know, walks behind her, opens the screen door and walks in the house. And I'm sitting there shocked. I haven't said a word yet. She hears the screen door and turns around and was like, what the hell? Huh. You know? Didn't think anything of it. Walks back down towards the trampoline and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I have to tell her. I'm like, Mom, someone just went in the house. And you know, I'm kind of a prankster. So she's like, come on, Alex, no, come on. I'm like, no, Mom, someone walked in the house. And then I dropped the F-bomb. I'm like, right?
Yeah. And then she knew you were serious.
And then she knew I was serious. And so she's like, everyone stay here. I'm going to go inside and check. And I'm freaking out. You know, I'm freaking out. I'm like, she's going to go in there. She's going to get murdered. I can't do anything about it.
Green sweater.
Yeah. The man with the right hand, right? So she walks in and she checks out the house and, you know, sees nothing. And I'm freaking out. And I look at my brothers and they're just white, like sheet white. And I'm like, what did you see? They say, we just saw a man inside looking out the window towards the trampoline. And I say, what did he look like? They said, well, he had a green sweater on. What?
Did you ever see him again?
Never again.
Never?
Ever.
You never had vibes in the house?
I've had one other experience in the house. I was laying down on my sofa and I felt a hand press on my back. Oof. But it wasn't a bad thing. It was more like I'm here. It almost felt kind of paternal.
Yeah.
Oddly.
My
you know? That could have been anything.
My cousin has had a couple ghosty
like
experiences.
What do you got?
So when she was younger, she used to always talk to the gray lady in the house. That's just like as a kid.
What's the gray lady?
Just a lady in the house. She used to always talk to them. And then her mother would hear like footsteps in the basement and stuff. And my cousin would be like, oh, that's just the lady. Like she was communicating with something in the house, which is weird.
You know, they say that about children.
Children are more susceptible. And then she also, her great grandfather, because this is like my second cousin, but we're very close. They have this old house in Texas where where he grew up, and he actually died in that house. And she was drying her hair one day, and same girl who heard the footsteps, and she looked up in the mirror and saw him standing behind her. Yeah.
That's a classic way to freak out.
The worst. And then his wife, Hollis, the guy who died, his wife, Holly was his name. His wife, who's been dead years as well, used to always garden wearing this hat. And the cousin that saw him in the mirror and that heard the footsteps, her daughter came running in from the garden one day wearing the hat. And they were like, where did you find that hat? And she couldn't say. She was like 2. She couldn't say where she got the hat. They hadn't seen this hat for about 50 years. It had like long disappeared.
That's weird.
And she was wearing the great grandma's hat. And
that's weird.
Yeah. Weird stuff like that, right?
See, you know, I know not everyone believes in God, but I feel like this is all tied to the same thing. You know, that there's just a source out there that breaks the confines of how we view reality.
Yeah.
And we're only just barely able to peer through the keyhole.
I've never seen a ghost, but I do kind of want to. have that experience at some point in my life, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be what you think. It's kind of like simple. You know what?
I know. I've never had my own haunted experience. I mean, we were in here recording one day and weird stuff was happening.
Yeah, weird
around
stuff
this place.
happens in this building. I mean, it is a landmark townhome. It's been here.
There was weird
since
things
the
like doors were
1800s.
shutting and we were hearing noises. It was weird.
Yeah, that back door, you can't see it on camera, but there's a door behind the camera
Yeah.
that kept opening and closing, which was strange.
Yeah.
But I haven't had
Marvin's
any.
about to bounce. Marvin's like, that's it. You could.
That one right there.
That one there.
No.
No. The one there.
Yeah. The bathroom door there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was opening and closing one day.
It was weird. Really weird.
And then.
Have you ever had a holy experience?
In what sense?
I used to be a pastor, right?
Right.
Or
Well,
almost
training to be a
became-
pastor, yeah.
Well, I mean, I did preach, so
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Well,
But I wasn't
yeah.
a registered pastor, so I
Yeah.
guess that's not the right thing to say. But yeah, I nearly became a pastor. Nearly went to college for it.
I mean, I've had very moving moments in prayer. Does that count as a holy experience?
Of course.
Okay, well then, yeah.
Have you had like a moment of enlightenment that you felt like wasn't from you?
I think so. Yeah.
Did it stem from some sort of important event? Or was it just out of the blue?
I was in church.
And you're Episcopalian?
Yeah, Church of England. I guess I'm technically non-denominational, but the church I go to is Episcopalian. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. I grew up Presbyterian.
All right.
I don't really know the differences, honestly, between Episcopalian and Presbyterian.
So Episcopalian is the closest to like Church of England. Church of England is, I guess, what I identify as, but it's like super liberal, women priests, gay marriage, everything's welcome, everyone's accepted.
Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
How do you see God?
I don't see him.
Or her? Or it?
I don't see them.
How do you like perceive?
I don't know. I didn't get into religion until I was like 14, and I started reading the Bible and meeting people who were Christian, and it just kind of made sense to me. I don't even know how to explain it. I started like reading the Bible and learning more about biblical history, and just something about it to me resonated, and I was like, oh, I really I do believe in this.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I looked into it, the more I believed in it. And the history is really interesting. Something, I don't know all the answers, but I know something happened all those years ago. Like something happened.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, as in like when Jesus died on the cross, like something, I believe it's what it says in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you don't believe in what's in the Bible, like you cannot deny something like cataclysmic happened that day.
Mm-hmm.
That changed the world forever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, if there's one right religion. There probably isn't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's kind of an artistic take on profound moments of the human spirit.
That's fair.
And it's just people like weld it, and weave it into cultural signifiers in a way that's unique, because how could you possibly understand it, right? And how could you also choose one over the other?
Well, that's why you have to learn about different religions.
Mm-hmm.
And I when I was really young, when I was like 10, I took an interest in Buddhism, so I started learning about that. I've learned about like Catholicism, which is Christianity still. I've learned about Judaism. I know a bit about Islam, but not a ton, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. For me, just the Christianity for me really resonated. It made sense. But then also, I'm not a fool in the way that like I'm very well aware that I live in a Christian part of the world. I could have been raised somewhere else in the world, and I guess something else would have resonated with me too.
Yeah, like, imagine being born in Roman times, the amount of different religions.
Mm-hmm.
But
I wasn't raised Christian.
You weren't?
No.
Oh.
No.
What were you raised?
So my dad is technically Jewish, like ethnically wise, he's Jewish, right?
Wow.
But he kind of found Christianity on his own terms. And then he's now Catholic, goes to church every Sunday. My mum is anti any kind of organized religion whatsoever. So as a result, they never raised us with anything. Like we were secular. Both my brothers are atheists.
Yeah.
Or like one's more agnostic, but they don't believe in anything. My mum doesn't believe in anything. My dad goes to church every Sunday, but by himself. So we were never raised with any kind of religion in the household at all.
I don't understand atheism. I really, really
Right.
try. I understand agnostic because it's kind of like the libertarian of religion.
Well, agnostic is basically like the not the belief in God, but the curiosity behind it. Yeah.
No, it's about it. Well,
Is
maybe
it-
it's that. I thought it was about not believing in the organization of religion in general.
I wouldn't even say that. Agnostic is like, I don't know if God exists, but he might, and I'm open to listen. I haven't decided he doesn't exist, but I don't necessarily believe he exists either.
Gotcha. So it's not like anti-religious government.
No, it's more just like I'm agnostic. Like I'm curious about it, but I haven't. He might exist, but it's not for sure.
Right. So it's kind of like they're withholding their judgment.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't understand atheism. I mean, I understand
The
what it
belief in
is,
nothing.
but I think it's really sad.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's really sad because surely they contemplate what happens after they die.
Well, my brother that's an atheist, I've asked him this before, and he goes, "You just die." And I was like, "Oh," and he goes, "Yeah, that's it."
That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
You know, it's like that's such a waste.
I just think like even if you don't believe in religion, there's some energy that's powering the human body forward.
Yeah, what
and
is
like,
that? Explain that.
Where does that go?
Yeah.
When we die?
Like this isn't a common thing.
I don't think we were made by accident.
No way.
Like that's another reason why I believe in God. Is I believe we're very intentionally made.
We're way too evolved, right? Think about this.
Very intentionally made.
This is why we're actually a breakaway and a lot more, we're a breakaway organism a lot more than we'd like to admit. Every single organism only evolves in a manner at which that supports itself to create life in its natural environment. It doesn't terraform, right? Or build houses or, draw or any of this. It's all of that is just so beyond anything that any animal does.
Right. Which is why I think we're intentionally designed here.
Why would we evolve that way, especially when it's at the detriment of the very environment we were put here in the first place?
And I believe in evolution 100%.
Yeah, of course.
Like I believe in evolution, but I believe the evolution was intentional and I don't think we're here by accident.
Do you think you ever hear that theory where someone mixed us up with like earthly DNA?
No, what's that?
It's like a conspiratorial theory.
All right, go for it.
Where it's the way they explain it, which is just very convenient, is that an alien DNA mixed with a monkey DNA. And that's why...
Isn't that what they believe in Scientology? Right? Isn't that Scientology?
Wait, really?
I think Scientology believe like aliens came down and mixed their DNA with people and...
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the Scientologist.
But that's not a Scientology. That's actually... have you ever heard of the Anunnaki?
No.
Okay, so one of the oldest civilizations, in fact, the oldest civilization, the Sumerians, fascinating civilization. Their whole cultural history is about aliens coming from Earth, or aliens coming down to Earth to populate them, to create.
That's literally Scientology, dude.
Well, Scientology came after, so Scientology is literally this, right? The Sumerian text. And the Sumerians were so advanced, they knew the entire planetary structure. Like they had every single planet in order. This is before writing. So they had almost pre-Egypt. That's how old. Older than Egypt. The oldest civilization ever. The first civilization we're talking about is ancient Sumeria. And they believed in these types called the Anunnaki.
I thought it was Mesopotamia.
That's in Mesopotamia.
Right.
Yeah, Mesopotamia is the area.
All right.
The Sumerians was the cult, was the nation. And yeah, they believed in the Anunnaki, which is this like off-breed. They believed in multiple breeds of humanity. Because they believed that the gods or whatever came down and populated. And you know what's really weird? You can find little like statues of airplanes, and they draw airplanes in the stone tablets. Look this up. They draw in the fucking tablets of the stone.
Did I ever tell you that I saw a UFO once?
You did?
I did. And now, listen, it's very clear. I don't think it was an alien, but it was an unidentified flying object.
Okay.
I don't know what it was. And I'm not claiming it was like, what are they called? The grays with the little...
Yeah, now there's like 1,000 types of
I don't think it was aliens and whatnot, but I saw this. It was my back in London where I grew up. We had this kitchen. I had a glass door and you could look out into the backyard. And I remember looking out in the sky and I saw what looked like a silver cigar shape.
Whoa.
Right?
What?
In the sky, and it had legs either side, but it was a silver cigar shape. And I remember like, that's a weird plane. And then I was young, and then it went. And yeah, and I remember like, that's really a bizarre thing to see in the sky.
Wow.
And yeah, nothing ever happened. I was never abducted by shit or anything. We joke that my mum was abducted because she breaks anything electronic. She'll touch something electronic and it breaks. And I Googled it once, and the first thing that came up
is you were abducted and raped by aliens.
It says you're abducted, so your magnetic field is all funky. And that's why you break things. So I told her that. I was like, well, you were just abducted by aliens. And she didn't find
like, oh yeah, I remember.
She didn't find it funny. She was like, God damn it, my laptop's broken again. Like, but yeah, I saw this thing in the sky, and I don't know what it was. It could have been anything. I'm not claiming it was,
UFOs are 100% real.
An alien or whatnot. But I remember so clearly seeing this silver cigar shape in the sky and not knowing what it was.
I mean, it's so casual for us to throw this out as if we know, but the Fermi paradox has yet to be answered.
I mean, look, it could have easily been like a plane from the side that I was seeing. It could have easily been like a weather balloon. It could have been my active imagination. I don't know what it was. I'm not going to claim.
No, we know they exist. Like they're
all right,
actually.
So it was an alien. Fuck it. I saw an alien.
Well, that's the distinction. They're not saying it's an alien, right?
Yeah.
But the federal government, as of January 5th,
UFOs exist
in 2020, I think.
Yeah.
Confirmed and released documentation proving that they have no idea what this is. They don't have this capacity.
Yeah.
It's a giant military concern.
Yeah.
So I think.
But honestly, though, I'm going to be real with myself. If there was aliens flying about, why would they be hovering over a house in South London? I don't know if that's like the best location to be going to.
Was it low?
No.
Right. So really, it's 100 miles I could see it.
Yeah.
100-mile radius I could see.
So surely other people would have seen it as well.
Yeah.
And now I start questioning myself, like, was it a dream?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that video?
Which one?
The video of Hammond. Fuck, what's his name? The fighter pilot who recorded.
Oh yes, and he's like, "What is this?" He's really confused about what's going on.
Yeah, I cannot believe I'm forgetting his name. It's really gonna bug me that I forgot it. But yeah, you saw that video of him catching it on infrared?
Yeah. Have you seen the one? I think it's the black box. You can hear them talking to, and they're like, "What is this?" And they're freaking out. Have you ever heard that video?
Heard the video?
There's some audio you can find online of these. I think it was military pilots, and they're talking to each other, and they're like, "Something's coming on our radar," and these people in the sky
that's the same
are like,
one.
Like,
that's the same one.
What is this? Yeah.
And they get a lock on it. They actually had their targeting systems get a lock on it. And when their targeting systems got a lock on it, it immediately started jamming their targeting systems, which
I get goosebumps
is an act of war.
Things.
That's an act of war. So, that means that this machine decided to create an act of war. So, I mean, what can we say about that?
That's wild.
What's wild is that someone somewhere or something somewhere has technology that could solve most of humanity's problems. Yeah. Like that.
Well, that's the whole thing of Harry Potter, right? So just to bring it back down. Marvin's laughing. So in Harry Potter, one of the reasons they keep secret from the Muggles, which is the non-magic people, is Hagrid says Muggles would want magical solutions to all their problems. So they don't want the Muggles to know they exist because they would just try and use magic to fix all their problems.
As if they don't? They don't even clean their rooms.
That's true. They just say
scourgify. They don't even clean their rooms.
Yeah. The house elves do it.
Yeah. They're like, okay, yeah, we're going to change our faces.
Yeah.
Or, I'm not powerful enough. Let me make a potion to resolve that.
Yeah.
Like, why don't I have a giant basilisk? Because I don't have friends and I need a snake pet.
That's Voldemort.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Dear Diary, I have no friends. I'm going to have a snake pet.
That's such a huge hole in the story.
What? That Voldemort doesn't have friends?
That's right, Harry. We can't let him have magic.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, okay. They
have other explanations for why they don't have magic. They don't share magic.
Yes, because they don't want him to have it. It's literally just
No, there's other reasons too. That's one of the big ones, but also there's a huge amount of fear from Muggles about witches and wizards. And they're worried about how they're going to be treated.
Yeah, that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to be hunted down and shot.
They don't want to be hunted down and killed because that was happening
before. But also, they wouldn't last a second.
The Muggles?
The Muggles wouldn't last a second.
Yeah, but they don't want to kill Muggles either.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
You know,
that.
they just want to live in peace. And that way of living in peace is to be secret.
I get that, but the wizarding world is too big.
It's not that big, actually.
They're in control.
It's quite small.
They run the world.
That's what Voldemort's trying to do. He's trying to take over the wizarding world and have the wizards out in the open.
Yeah.
And the muggles enslaved.
How do you feel about that?
What, muggles being enslaved?
No, not that part. But wizards being out in the open. Right? Because if someone were to stand up on a soap stool, right? And say, isn't that what those are called?
A soapbox?
Soapbox, yeah. And, they were to say, there's...
I don't know why that was so funny.
There's always one every podcast where I say something really stupid. Yeah, soap stool.
Yeah.
Soapbox. Soapbox.
Yeah, soapbox.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Soapbox. And he's like, why are we hiding? Why are we hiding from these people? Why can't we live free? Right? Mm-hmm. What, we have to protect ourselves at all costs because we're scared?
Have you not seen X-Men?
Yeah.
This is the whole premise of X-Men. The mutants
That's true.
are on public, and the non-mutants then try and like hunt down the mutants and get rid of them because they're afraid.
Yeah, but it's a little different though, right? Because in X-Men, they're just starting to come up, right? They're not even organized. It takes Professor Xavier to organize them. Right,
but I think that's even scarier, the fact they are organized.
Yeah, but also, what are you going to do about it?
They have a wand.
What are you going to do about it? If they want you dead, you're dead. Wand. I'm sorry. Right?
I would love a magic wand. I would love to be able to do magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've thought.
I'm just thinking about it a lot now. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we should talk about some new stuff because we haven't talked about any new
How much time do we have?
Yeah, what are we doing on time? Oh, then we probably shouldn't talk about any new stuff. It's just one of those days, guys.
Should we wrap it up or should we talk news?
We'll talk real quick. Just a couple things. First of all, the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Bullshit. Sorry, I'll say it.
How many hours did you watch of the court case?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. But
4 hours.
Yeah.
I've watched.
Yeah.
I watched the entire process.
Let me tell you something.
It's not bullshit.
The minute they put out self-defense, it's really hard to prosecute. It's really, really hard to prosecute when someone brings up a self-defense. And that was the thing. They had a witness saying it was self-defense, and that made it really hard to prosecute. But I will say this, right?
He pulled a gun on him.
I will say this. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The minute they brought up self-defense, it's hard to prosecute.
Yeah, but it's not that they brought it up. It's that he was defending himself.
Why was he there in the first place?
Why was anyone there burning down things and breaking things in the first place?
He went to that protest with the intent to hurt someone.
No, he did
not.
Yes,
he did.
Meriel, no.
He picked up a gun and went to a protest.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say this, though.
That part is true.
Yeah. I will say this. And I'm going to say it.
We're going to disagree, but
we are.
I love you.
All right.
So we're good.
If he was black, the case wouldn't be dismissed.
That's probably
He is a white kid and he has white privilege.
That's probably.
Yeah.
Well,
if he was a...
You can't remove that out of the equation.
You can't, because there are people in jail right now for selling like an ounce of weed, serving more time than this guy who killed 3 people.
Okay. This is my problem with that comparison. What you're saying is true, but they have nothing to do with what happened.
I think
and it's so easy to stir up passions by saying this one particular example compared to this one other extreme example. How are they the same? It's like you can't in a single paragraph compare 2 complicated cases in the court of law. Like, that's not fair.
What I was trying to say is I think it's an example of the bigger problem with our judicial system and our penal system in America.
Yeah, but that's a different thing.
It's not a different thing at all.
Why?
I think there's a huge problem with our judicial and our penal system.
We have a huge problem with our judicial system.
And also,
for example,
the word penal is really funny.
Yeah. There is a huge problem. There's discrimination across the board.
Absolutely.
Like, women are more likely to get off certain charges than men by like 60%.
Yeah, but women get longer sentencing for murder than men do. Isn't that wild? They're less likely. No, they're less likely to be charged, but when they are charged, their sentencing is longer.
Okay, that actually makes sense in my mind. Yeah.
Why?
Like, I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that form of discrimination I could totally see being true.
I just think that, yeah, I mean, like you said, once they brought up self-defense.
Did you watch the video?
I watched parts of it, Alexander, and I'm agreeing with you. So once self-defense comes into play, it's really hard to prosecute. I still think he had intent to hurt someone going to that protest. And I think that's a difficult thing.
Okay.
To be okay with.
This is where I will be taking an uncomfortable opinion.
Go for it.
Because I think that fairness should be for every single living person, regardless of circumstance. Black, white, does not matter. Fairness, the world isn't fair. And the cards fall in really effed up ways. Okay? I get that, right? I totally understand that. There's a lot that we have to do. There's a lot we have to fix. I went into this case thinking exactly what you were thinking, that this person showed up with the intent to hurt. Why was he there in the first place? For what purpose would he arrive with an AR-15? And then I watched the court case itself, the way that they prosecuted him, the questions that they asked, the exhibits that they put up. I watched from end to end. Binger, I think is his name, the lawyer, the main lawyer, who's number 2 in the world, by the way, prosecutor, number 2 in the world, or the US maybe not the world. Walk through his prosecution, see the examples that they brought up. I watched a cross-examination of all the key witnesses. I watched it and I spent time on it. And I agree. I completely agree with the verdict. And here's why. I did not know that he showed up with 3 other people also protecting one specific, I think, family-owned car lot. He showed up with medical equipment. He was running around asking if anyone needed first aid.
I knew that.
Okay. So, you know, that's a little unusual for someone who's going out there to shoot somebody. And then I watched the whole video. I watched him get chased down. I watched the person who tried to hit him with his skateboard. And I saw the person who pulled a gun on him when he was on his back, trying to run away from these people.
I understand that. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying I don't think it was right that he went to a protest with a gun in the first place. Like, I'm going back to the bit. We talked about this last week.
Yeah, but
it's
your
like
entire life
it's like when you look at it small, it's one thing. And then you step out a bit and it's another thing. You step out further, it's another thing. You step out further, it's another thing.
Right. But that's why when you take it to court, right, and you're trying to defend yourself against murder, you minimize it to just the confines of what's there, right? You can't put the fact that this individual, Kyle Rittenhouse, happened to be born white, right? Happened to be that in this particular situation. You can't persecute that person because the world is unfair and it isn't fair to ethnic people and to justice system.
I'm not saying that.
No, I know that. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying we're playing devil's advocate here, right? Nothing about this is personal, of course. But what I'm saying is people are comparing him to the bigger problems of the world that 100% exist. And they want to prosecute this kid because of that. How is that fair to this guy? Just like it's unfair.
I don't think people want to prosecute him because he's white.
Why? All he sees is white supremacist. All he sees is that he's a white supremacist.
I think people
Where was the proof in that?
Upset because of the whole situation. You have a 17-year-old who crossed state lines, who collected a semi-automatic rifle.
He couldn't own a pistol in that state.
He shouldn't own a gun in the first place. He's 17 years old.
I understand, but people with bats shouldn't be destroying his family's property and putting them into bankruptcy.
It wasn't his family's property, first of all. And you're saying...
You're right about that.
Yeah, it wasn't his family's property. And if you're saying like, oh, we can't compare it to other cases, then you can't be like, well, people shouldn't be having bats. I just think...
No, people shouldn't be lighting shit on fire and destroying businesses. I'm all for protest because we need a change. There has to be enormous change. But that doesn't mean you go around blowing up people's places and lighting stuff on fire and hurting people.
I never said you should either.
No, I know. It's nothing personal.
I know.
Right? But that's why they were there, is to make sure that those cars weren't destroyed and that they weren't put into bankruptcy. Because you know why? The cops can't do anything about it. There's not enough of them.
I just think I'm still not convinced he went to that protest with pure intent. I don't think he went to that protest for peace-causing reasons.
How do you feel about the protesters going there and their pure intent?
I'm not talking about the protesters.
Well,
right
no,
now,
but
though.
my question is, they're part of the equation, right?
Well, they're not part of that trial.
Why not?
You just said so yourself.
A major part of the defense was that he was under threat.
If he was being attacked and he defended himself, which he was, I understand that. Completely fair.
Right.
You have to be able to.
But you're saying, why did he show up with a gun?
I think his intent to go to that protest in the first place, he went with the intent to cause harm.
I think he went with a hero complex, not an intent to impose harm. I think he went there as a young man who thought he could make a difference, and that the only way to protect himself and the property is to bring this giant fucking rifle.
He didn't need to protect
and
himself.
Then shit
he
went
stepped
down
into the fire.
He did.
No
Absolutely.
one was saying, we're going to come get Kyle. He was like, I'm going to go get a gun and I'm going to step into that situation.
Actually, no. It was an organized, 4 people were there, all with radios, trying to protect the car lot.
But he chose to go there.
Yeah.
I'm saying he chose to do that.
Yes, he did. Absolutely. What's wrong with wanting to protect
Because
property?
he's a 17-year-old kid and it wasn't his business.
I understand that. But he's on trial for murder.
Yeah.
Murder.
Yeah, because 3 people are dead.
I understand, but he's on trial for murder, not on trial for wanting to, he's not on trial for, why are you getting involved with anything?
Well, that comes
You see, and
into
this is the difference. People paint it into this, well, he shouldn't have been there in the first place. Yes, I agree. People with bats shouldn't have been lighting things on fire. I agree, but it did. It did, and then he got chased down, and he was on his back on the ground.
Yeah.
And someone pulled a gun on him.
But he wouldn't be
You know what I
on
mean?
his back on the ground in that situation if he hadn't stepped into that situation in the first place.
He didn't step into the situation. People were jumping on cars, and he asked them to get down, and he was charged.
But
people were on
I'm
private
saying,
property, jumping on cars, destroying the car lot.
he saw what was happening. He saw these protests were happening. He made the active choice to go over state lines to collect a weapon and to go...
He didn't buy the weapon. That's not true.
To collect a weapon, I said. He did.
No, he collected it in the state.
He crossed state lines to collect a weapon.
No, he didn't. His friend went
I
over
watched
state
that
lines
scene in
and
the
got him a
trial.
gun. See, no, this is what happened. His friend went over the state line to get a gun. He purchased it for Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse said, when I'm 18, I'm going to buy this gun off you. Right? He should not have had an AR-15.
No one should have an
I don't
AR-15.
think anyone should have an AR-15.
Agreed.
I think, hunting, whatever, but that's not what we're talking
You don't
about.
hunt with an AR-15. You hunt with a rifle.
I'm saying I think people should be able to hunt with guns. I
Yeah.
think people should be able to defend themselves with guns. But AR-15 is kind of like, what are we doing here? But that's a different argument. Point being, he didn't cross state lines to get the gun. Someone else went to get the gun to bring it to him, right? Because he legally couldn't own a firearm. He's also a trained firefighter. He
was a volunteer firefighter.
He wasn't just a volunteer. It was a special program for the local fire department of Kenosha that he spent multiple hours in, including medical training. Okay, so he goes to this protest to protect this car lot, and he's running around asking if anyone needs first aid. He brings a gun on a sling so that his hands are able to assist individuals with minor injuries. And then he gets a call on the radio saying, hey, we got people jumping on the cars. I need you down here now. And a young, impressionable, gunslinging child who shouldn't have had an AR-15 gets put into an impossible situation, gets attacked, one of which, by the way, is a convicted felon, a very bad person.
Yeah, both
who
of them
charged him.
actually had charges against them. Both the people he killed had charges against him.
Not that that should matter because he's a
Doesn't.
human being,
It doesn't.
right? But what I'm saying is that so much of this information gets convoluted. And when you're on trial as a 17-year-old with life in prison, and it could be the same thing if you're black, if you're white, it doesn't matter what color you are, you should be treated fairly.
Agreed.
Right. And yet everyone's circulating these videos that he's a white supremacist. Why? Why is he a white supremacist?
I never said he was a white supremacist.
No, I know, not you. Nothing personal.
Yeah.
Again, but people are saying that about him. It's like, why is this white
So you don't think
supremacist?
he deserves any kind of punishment for what he did? You think he should just walk home?
It's not about what punishment I think he deserves. It's if he's guilty or not guilty of murder. That's the only thing I'm interested in.
Right.
I'm not interested in
What
talking.
about manslaughter?
They didn't go for manslaughter, did they?
I think he's guilty of manslaughter.
Exactly. So that's not his fault,
Yeah.
is it? And yet we want to rip this person's life down. We don't know him. He could be the nicest kid in the world.
Yeah,
I don't know him.
I know he is, but
Why?
okay.
Have you talked to him?
Anyone who carries around a gun, to me, like that at 17, and then carries around a semi-automatic weapon on their back and thinks they're saving the country is not someone I want to associate with.
So then, and I know you don't believe this, but with that logic, every soldier over in Afghanistan
Very
would fit
different
that bill.
situation.
I'm just saying.
It's a very different situation.
I'm just saying.
This is, I think, another thing with the Kyle Rittenhouse is it's opening a huge door to vigilante justice, which is problematic.
A giant problem.
A huge, and I think that's one of the biggest issues of this, right? Is
I 100% agree
it's
with you on
opening
that.
a massive door to vigilante justice, which is chaotic, to say the least, and can be a massive problem.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a really look. I'll say this: it's a really complicated case.
Yeah,
and that's why it's had so much attention from the press and from the media, and why it's been so divisive, because it's a complicated case and there are so many nuances to it.
And there's so much we got to do that has to fix this problem on a whole, right? Like if Black people were treated fairly in the court system, they wouldn't have to protest. Right. So it's like, you know,
it's
let's
like the chicken
there.
or the egg. What came first, right?
100%.
Exactly. We have to go back and fix the root cause of these problems.
Which is why I just focus on if this one 17-year-old kid who had a hero complex and strapped a gun to his back in order to give medical support and protect his space deserves to go to jail for life in prison. My conclusion is no. But now we need to start the conversation about actually doing something to make changes in our judicial system in order to keep it fair for people, because it isn't fair and it needs to be changed. And it's awful.
When I was up for jury duty and I thought they were going to ask me questions about the jury duty, I had my answer planned in my head. I was going to go in there and she'd be like, look, I don't support the penal system. I don't support the American judicial system. And I think you guys are all corrupt. And then I was hoping they would let me go. Because it's true. I don't support.
Didn't they let you go though?
They didn't even ask me questions. They were just like, bye. Yeah. They just looked at me and were like, no.
Communist.
Yeah. And then they sent me $40 for my time. So, you know.
They paid you?
Yeah, they pay you for jury duty.
Wow.
They missed a whole day of work. So I actually lost money because who lives off $40 a day in New York? It's bullshit. I know, exactly. And then they had the audacity to say, and if you get paid less than this for work, let us know and we'll pay you that much. And I was like, no, I get paid more than this a day, but thank you.
I really want to go back to this for a second, okay? Because I think this should be the biggest lesson, that people are sprinkling all of this misinformation in so many different ways, and it's constantly a push-pull. You know, like it's constantly a push-pull, and it makes us hate each other. And we're not slowing things down. We're not slowing things down for a second and just trying to remove emotion out of it in a way where we can think logically. Because people are just taking the shorthand version and then assuming problems and then expanding it to become this like giant systemic thing, when really it's a really shitty moment and a tiny shitty moment in time. And this happens 300 times a day. And we only hear about one every month or so, right? How many Black people right now are on trial for bullshit things that they didn't do?
Yeah, it's fun.
We're not talking about that. Instead, we're talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. Why? Because we're told that's what we should care about. And we believe it, and we just digest it.
I mean, just on that real quick, and I'm going to keep this real short because we are running out of time. Julius's death sentence being postponed.
Whose?
Did you hear about this?
No. What is this?
Can you look up his last name? I'm blanking on his last name. This guy, a Black guy, was charged, I think, in the 90s and has been on death row since then. And evidence... Julius Jones, right? Thank you. Julius Jones.
The DNA evidence, right?
All the evidence points to this poor guy being innocent. And he was supposed to be executed. And there was protests all over the country about this. And 4 hours before this guy was set to be executed, they suspended the execution sentence and put him in prison for life. So he now has a chance to fight his case. 4 hours before he was set to be state murdered.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine
the mental distress of that? I mean, now they're trying to fight to get him out of jail. But I think someone commented, either the governor or someone high up in the state, I'm really fucking up my facts right now, I should have read it more, basically said that it was disappointing that his death sentence got commuted. And I was like, you piece of shit. Isn't just the slimmest chance, isn't just the faintest possibility that he might be innocent enough for you not to execute him?
I don't really believe in the death penalty.
I don't believe in the death penalty at all.
Unless you're doing something with children.
I don't believe in the death penalty at all. 1 in 25 people on death row who have been killed on death row
are innocent.
Are believed to be innocent now. And if that's not enough for you to...
Hold on. How do you measure that?
Because they can go back now to like previous case of people who've been executed.
Okay.
And with DNA evidence and reevaluate the evidence.
Gotcha, yeah.
Basically, the studies show that 1 out of every 25 people who've been executed on death row were probably innocent. And if that's not enough to convince you that death row shouldn't be a thing and the death penalty shouldn't be a thing, I don't know what is.
It's the prison system in general.
Just the chance that someone may have been innocent is like... Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's gross. The prison system in general is disgusting.
State-sanctioned murder.
You know, like they spend an average $110,000 per person for federal state prison
it costs
per
more
year.
to keep someone on death row than it does to keep them in prison for life. A whole lot more. Isn't that wild?
And yet there's, these private prisons are literally people farms.
Yeah, it's disgusting with slave labor.
And then all that money goes down. And these are the problems that we should be focusing on, right? Yeah. But instead we're following these red herrings to either divide us from being educated or keeping the conversation consistent enough where change can actually occur. And that's what bugs me about it, because it's abuse. It's emotional abuse. What's going on in the media? Yeah. We're being constantly twisted and turned. I barely know what to believe. Right isn't left. Like it's madness. It's just this weird kind of runaround. And it's really, really hurting us as people, and now there's all of these factions going on. There's all of these like pockets of belief, and no one's able to take a step into other perceptions of it so easily. It's just like, I don't know where it's going to end, Meriel. Because it's not slowing down. Yeah. Right? It's not slowing down. And more people are going to die. Yeah. More people are going to go to jail, right? More people are going to be wrongfully imprisoned. More people are going to be shot by police. More Karens are going to call police the first time that they, in a moment's notice on people of color. Like, all of these things happen because we're not focusing on the right things. And I don't know. I don't have the solutions, but
we've got to wrap up as well. This was a heavy podcast episode. I came in this morning thinking it was all be chirpy, chirpy, chat, and we got to some real heavy stuff. Are you okay?
Yeah, I just, it's actually scary to talk about this stuff. Yeah. Because it's so easy for people to jump on what you and I just discussed. Yeah. And to paint us in a way that... Well,
this is all this is the point of this podcast, right? It's all discussion. And we don't know if we're right. Honestly, it's a lot of bullshit. We're just talking and getting conversations going. We could be completely wrong. We could be right. I think the fact that we don't know and we admit that we don't know about stuff is kind of key to this.
Yeah, but there's going to be a time when that doesn't matter.
When people saying they don't know stuff, doesn't matter?
But people say that all the time that are painted inappropriately on the internet.
Well, do you want to redo this episode then?
No, I don't. I think the moment that we're afraid to say these things is the moment this entire mission dies.
Yeah, that's true.
And, I'm not going to do that. No way. Yeah. But, thankfully... right now, we don't have not thankfully, but we don't have 3 million people watching this. Yeah. So it's not going to make mainstream news. The worst thing that can happen is probably, the powers that be are like, maybe this shouldn't be on the internet. Right? That's the worst case scenario. But there will be a time.
We haven't said anything that controversial.
No, not at all. No, if anything, it's that video. Video on her clips.
The baby wee video clip.
Oh my
I think
God.
It's hilarious. It's the creepiest ad, and that video made me laugh so hard.
But people don't want, people will eventually come for these kinds of discussions.
Great. And then my career will be ruined. Awesome. Thanks, guys. This is Broken Spoken. We've loved having you.
Bye, guys. See you next week.
See you next week when we've been banned from the internet.